2 months ago, I asked my mom if I could move into my own apartment. She carefully checked if the complex was safe, and once she was satisfied, she gave me her blessing. She helped me pack my belongings, but my dad couldn't assist. He was recovering from surgery and couldn't lift anything heavy. Luckily, Mom and I were strong enough to manage on our own. I met the landlord, who handed me the keys with a warm smile. He encouraged me to introduce myself to the neighbors, noting that most were friendly. It was my first time living independently, and since I didn't have much to bring, moving in was quick and painless. Alone in my new place, I decided to freshen up with a quick shower before meeting a few neighbors I'd chatted with during the move. I hopped in, made it fast, got dressed, and was ready to head out when a knock came at the door. I opened it to find a tall man, probably in his 30s, standing there. He was soaked, not from a shower, but from a pool, as the sharp scent of chlorine clung to him. He flashed a grin and said, "Hi, I'm thrilled to see a young woman like you moving in." I smiled back, joking that my neighbors might regret living next to me. We both laughed, and soon we were deep in conversation, swapping stories and interests. The chat flowed so easily that I invited him inside, and he happily accepted. I offered to make coffee, which he eagerly agreed to. I'm not a coffee fan. I prefer tea, so I brewed him a cup and made myself some tea. We talked about everything from hobbies to life goals until he said he had to go, tired of smelling like chlorine. As I said goodbye, he paused and said in a kind tone, "It's so nice to have a sweet young woman like you here instead of just old folks." I blushed, shy by nature, and he left. That night, my phone buzzed, startling me. It was a Facebook friend request from the guy I'd met, Aaron. I accepted it, but then a strange feeling hit me. I couldn't recall giving him my name or mentioning my Facebook. For a moment, it unnerved me, but I shrugged it off, thinking I must have slipped it into our conversation. It was late, so I slipped into comfy pajamas, short shorts and a crop top, and settled in for the night, brushing off the odd feeling. The next morning, I gathered my laundry and headed to the complex laundry room. There was Aaron, wearing shorts and no shirt. I blushed, noticing his strong, athletic build. It felt reassuring to know I had a neighbor who could help if I ever needed it. As I sorted my clothes, I caught him watching me. I waved hello and he blushed slightly. He offered to bring my laundry to my apartment when it was done so I could head back. Grateful, I agreed and returned home. Later, I heard a knock. "It's open," I called out. Aaron walked in, handed me my clothes, and gently warned me not to leave the door unlocked, asking, "What if it wasn't me?" I laughed and said I'd scream as loud as I could. When I asked what he'd do, he said he'd race to help me. I smiled, feeling a bit safer. That night I went to bed, but a strange noise woke me in the dead of night. Something moving in my room. Heart pounding, I reached for my bedside lamp and flicked it on. My clothes were strewn across the floor, like they'd been tossed everywhere. Then I saw him. A man standing in my room. Terror gripped me. I thought I was alone. I screamed. His eyes locked on mine, a pair of my underwear pressed against his face as he inhaled deeply. It was revolting. When he lowered the fabric, I saw it was Aaron, the guy I'd thought was kind. He smirked, still clutching my clothes, and stepped toward me. "I know you want me," he said. "It's obvious. Why else would I be here?" "What?" I stammered. "I barely know you. We just met." He snapped, "So what?" I saw how you looked at me. He shoved me onto the bed, and I screamed again, tears streaming down my face. I felt so stupid. Why had I let him get so close? Why had I trusted a stranger? Suddenly, blinding lights flooded the room, and a commanding voice bellowed, "Let her go! Get on the ground!" It was the police. They arrested Aaron, but I was left trembling and shattered. I sobbed all the next day and stayed with my parents for a while. Returning to my apartment was agonizing. Thankfully, a kind neighbor had seen someone breaking in that night and called the police. I shudder to think what might have happened without his help. It's a chilling reminder to be cautious and avoid trusting people you don't truly know. Safety comes first.
5 years ago, my sister, dad, stepmom, our German shepherd, Coco, and I lived in a small apartment complex in Riverside, a quiet town. Our neighbors included some lively music fans in apartment 12 upstairs, a friendly guy named Sino in apartment 4, and an odd man named Harold in apartment 3. A few weeks before a disturbing incident, Harold strolled over and asked my dad, "Hey Rob, got a cigarette?" His quirky delivery made us chuckle. My dad, always kind, handed him one, and they sat outside, smoking and chatting for half an hour about life and family. Then, out of nowhere, Harold asked something unsettling. "Hey, Robert, could your daughter hang out with me at my place sometime?" It sent a chill through me. Harold was in his 40s, and my sister was only 13. The air grew tense. My dad shot up, pushed Harold back, and shouted, "No, get out of here. What's wrong with you?" Harold laughed, lit his cigarette, and walked off, glancing at me through the window. 2 years later, when my sister was 15, she walked to a nearby drugstore. Suddenly, Harold appeared, trailing her and shouting, "Hey, honey, you look good today. Your dad said you could spend the night with me if you want. I've got drinks, too." Thankfully, Sino, our dependable neighbor, was outside with a beer. Seeing Harold harass my sister, he dropped his drink and rushed over, yelling, "What's your deal? She's only 15. Leave her alone, you creep." I stepped outside just in time to see Harold leering at my sister. She hadn't physically matured yet and looked younger than her age, making his predatory gaze even more disturbing. He smirked, as if certain he'd get his way someday. It was bone-chilling. The following Saturday, around midnight, the worst happened. My sister was at a friend's house and my stepmom was at work. Out of nowhere, someone began pounding on my bedroom's back window, scraping at the thin metal cover. A man screamed, "Where's my wife?" I hid under my blanket, frozen in fear. My dad shouted, "Harold, get out! I've called the police." But Harold kept trying to break in. I begged Dad to call the police, but he said firmly, "Stay quiet, Zach. I've got this." Minutes later, I heard the metal cover tear. Then the noises stopped, only for a loud crack to echo from the front door. Harold was breaking in, yelling, "Where's my wife? If you don't give her to me, they won't find a piece of you." Dad finally called 911, pleading for help. 10 minutes later, the police arrived and questioned Harold. They asked my dad, "Do you have his wife?" Dad exploded. "Are you kidding? He's talking about my 15-year-old daughter. He thinks she's his. He's not right in the head." They found a crowbar and sharp tools in the grass. The next day, Harold was charged. And weeks later, we learned he was committed to a mental health facility. He had a disability and had stopped taking his medication. At 17, I did a lot of babysitting in Willow Creek, a small city. Some thought it was risky since I wasn't an adult, but I was hired often. I wasn't a professional, just a teenager with a Craigslist ad my aunt helped me create, featuring photos and details about my experience. It was simple, but showed I was trustworthy and great with kids. Babysitting was my passion.
Unlike working retail or at a gas station when I turned 18, I loved keeping kids safe and entertained. It wasn't just a job. It was something I cherished. I typically worked for one family at a time, learning their needs. Caring for kids came naturally to me. One day, someone contacted me through the ad, saying they had an 8-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter and needed a sitter for the weekend. I hesitated. Their profile was anonymous. Just a string of numbers, no name or photo. I don't know how that was allowed, but it was. I agreed to meet the man on a Friday evening. He sent the address and I didn't check it beforehand. A mistake I rarely made. My mom drove me there. When we arrived, the house looked abandoned, with overgrown weeds like a jungle. Mom stared at the house, then at me, silent for nearly 10 seconds. We thought it might be a prank. She waited on the sidewalk as I walked down the long driveway. The front yard had cracked windows, one boarded up. I peered inside, but it was pitch black and silent. Regret washed over me. Then I heard clanking behind the door, like someone fumbling with the lock. Finally, it creaked open, revealing a man with wild, frizzy hair wearing sunglasses and a tattered suit. "Ah, you're here," he exclaimed. "I've been waiting." Nervously, I asked, "Is everything okay?" The situation felt wrong. An unease gnawed at me. His odd appearance reminded me of a friend with autism who loved sunglasses, which eased my nerves slightly. He invited me in, and though hesitant, I entered. He was surprisingly warm, making me wonder if I'd misjudged him. He closed the door, whistling and tapping his feet like he was ecstatic. Or maybe high. The bare floorboards creaked, and the staircase to the right had exposed nails, as if the carpet had been torn out. He led me to a back room with a single light, containing only a mattress, bedding, and pillows. "Make yourself at home," he said, skipping around while whistling. I was uneasy but not terrified. He seemed erratic but not threatening. I asked, "Where are the kids I'm babysitting?" He paused and said, "Oh, just a moment. Want a drink?" I declined, saying I had eaten and had a drink earlier. He seemed fixated on offering me a drink instead of answering. He told me to wait in the room while he went to the kitchen. He returned, forgot his drink, and went back, calling upstairs, "Daisy? Brandon, the babysitter's here?" I thought I'd finally meet the kids, but no one came. He sat on the mattress, sipping a moldy-looking drink, rocking back and forth, whistling. I knelt closer and asked, "Where are they? Are they coming?" He ignored me, still rocking. I stepped into the hallway and called, "Hello? I'm here to babysit. Come down." Silence. I returned and asked if I should get them. He said, "Great idea. Go get them." I climbed the creaky stairs, finding no lights. Upstairs were 4 rooms, a bathroom, 2 bedrooms, and an old office, but no Daisy or Brandon. In the second bedroom, I knew I had to leave. I texted my mom, "I'm coming out." This isn't right. Switched to airplane mode and pocketed my phone. As I turned, he was in the doorway, whistling and tapping his boots. "Where are they?" "They're not here," I said. He pointed to a broken bed frame and said, "They're right there." Ice ran through my veins. Mom knew I was coming, but I had to escape. I'm 5 feet 1 inch, 17, and he was at least 6 feet, about 40, and seemed unhinged. He blocked the only exit. Thinking fast, I played along. "Daisy asked for a drink. I'll make it," I said. He looked confused, but said, "I made her one, but if she wants you to, fine." He stepped back, and I signaled to the empty bed that I return. I walked out slowly ahead of him. At the stairs, with him still by the bedroom, I bolted. As I ran, he unleashed a scream that haunts me, one of the most unhinged I've ever heard. I reached the ground floor, yanked open the stuck door, and sprinted down the driveway. I'd run track in high school, and though I wasn't in running shoes, I must have set a record. Mom had the car running, her face pale with fear. I jumped in, slammed the door, and she floored it. Glancing back, I saw the man in his tattered suit, cowboy boots, frizzy hair, and sunglasses waving goodbye. I stopped babysitting new clients after that, though I kept my regulars for 2 years. It shook me to my core. On a drive from Cedar Valley to Oak Ridge, we had another harrowing experience. I dread Oak Ridge, and every trip felt cursed. One night, around 3 or 4 a.m., we ran over a body on a 2-lane highway. It wore a red and black shirt and jeans, sprawled across the right lane, head toward the center. It had been hit multiple times, the left lane smeared with blood like spilled paint. The crunch of bones still echoes in my mind. It was raining, and we were going nearly 90 miles per hour, so stopping wasn't an option. We hadn't seen southbound cars for miles. 15 minutes later, an ambulance passed in the opposite direction, likely called by a trucker. I was in shock. I wanted to call 911, but didn't know our location. My husband, who finished work at 3 a.m., often drove us to Oak Ridge to see his kids. I've searched online for news about it, but found nothing. That was 2 years ago, and the memory still haunts me.